Hey, Palmy here. Hey, my mother-in-law, Ruth, call out to Ruth, has called me a couple weeks ago and asked me how to make stock in a crock pot. And I thought everybody knew that, but I'm going to go ahead and put it on there, one, to help her out, so she can refer to the video, and also to share what I've learned making stock in this crock pot. So what I do is I collect all my vegetable cuttings and any carcasses of chicken that I cook up. I take carcasses after we're done and I freeze them in a big bag. Here's my big bag. I get the 2-gallon containers because I can hold just about enough for one pot of stock. So what I do is take all these cuttings. This is the skin of the onions. This is ends of the onions. This is leftover carrot peel, celery stalks, the inside, and the hard stalks on the outside. Anything I'm not using when I prep, I go ahead and throw in this bag. And then when I'm ready to make stock, I go ahead and put it in my crock pot. So this is my crock pot. I have a silicone liner for my crock pot. This is more advanced ones. I actually have 2 crock pots. This one's the more advanced one. I put it on low and I can choose how many hours I want. I typically go at least, most times I start it before I go to bed at night and I let it go until the next morning. But I'm gonna go at least a good 19-20 hours. And then I'm just gonna throw this whole pot of stuff in here along with, okay, so I fill the water up until it comes above the stuff. Now remember, this is stuff that's frozen, so it'll go down a little bit. You see that's bone right there. So as soon as it starts melting, it'll go down and you'll be able to get your lid on there. Put your lid on and sit and forget. I will tell you though, I have burnt myself very badly taking the hot liquid out. So I've learned to let it, when it's done cooking, I let it sit and take off the cover, let it get cool, and then I strain it. And I'll show you how to do that later. But right now we're gonna have tons of stock. And then I store it, and I'll show you what I store it in. Smaller sections, half cup portions, because that's typically what you need for, something small like a dinner versus some soup or something. I also store it in gallon containers, but the smaller ones is the ones I tend to use more often. Oh, I forgot. Here's the thing that my mother-in-law wasn't sure of. She didn't know what kind of spices to put in there. So this is what I do. I do garlic, always do garlic. I always do 3 or 4 bay leaves. I do this, I have some celery seed, so I'm gonna throw that in there. And then I want to finish up the rest of this Mrs. Dash table blend. I only have a little bit left. And then I always make sure that I put in some poultry seasoning, because after you buy that 1 container for Thanksgiving to make your dressing, and what else do you use it in? So I use it in my stock, and I find it's a very nice mix. This one here is, what does it say? Dehydrated vegetables, garlic, onions, salt, spices, including paprika. And then I go ahead and put a little bit of brown pepper, and I put quite a bit of salt because I like mine seasoned. But you can adjust that to your liking. But that's the example of what I would put in it for my spices. And then that's a basic stock that you can use for anything. And then say I want to do ramen or pho, make a pho broth, I would then add like Chinese 5-spice or something like that. Say you want Mexican soup, you can add turmeric, or chicken noodle soup. I always add turmeric just for the color. And then also for like a Southwestern, you could add cumin and coriander and that kind of stuff. But as a basic broth, this is what I do. Now, without the chicken, this would be a perfect vegetarian broth too, if you just wanted to make a vegetarian broth out of this, minus the chicken carcass in there. I was saying broth, but actually it is going to be a bone broth because it has the chicken carcass in there. So it is considered bone broth. And I also forgot to tell you, I put a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in there. It says it releases all the nutrients that are in the bone in order for that bone broth to have those nutrients in it. Is what I've always been heard is a tablespoon of any vinegar, but I use the apple cider vinegar. Okay, so the crock pot is done with the stock. I've turned it off and let it cool down. This is the end result. Oops, can you see? Looks murky. We're going to strain all that stuff out of there. None of that's good anymore. So, and then I separate out my vegetables from my bones, and then I roast my bones, and then I pulverize them and use them for bone meal. I spend a lot of money on organic chicken, so I want to get the most out of all of it. So we'll do that step next. Okay, here we go. So I get everything as close as possible so I don't spill it. Have any more spills. And what I do is I do a strainer on top of a colander, on top of a strainer, on top of, this is be the ridge where the bone broth will go. So I've got my bottom there, and these are just to stop as much as the the leftover vegetables and bones. So stir it up. And however you can get it in there is the best way to get it in there. Let me use a scoop. Trying to get out as much vegetables and debris as I can, so I'll just have plain broth underneath. But the liquid will drain down into the big bowl that I've collected the broth in. And all this was scraps that would go to waste otherwise, and you're going to come out with a really delicious broth. Okay, let's see if we got enough out. All right, wish me luck here. And I'm checking the quantity at the bottom in the original bowl down there to make sure I'm not running over. Okay. So we're going to let this drain. And then I strain it 3 times total. So I'll get the main stuff out. And then I'll do it 2 more times with, sometimes I put coffee filters in my main strainer so it can get all the particles out of it. And then what I should have done was get another bowl. I'll let this stuff drain into that bowl when I strain the rest of it. See, there's that much stuff in the bottom, but minus what all that stuff is. So what I'll do is, I should have cleaned out my other side of the sink, but it'll work. Put your other bowl underneath. to strain through this. See, we got that much left out of it. All this is trash. Put that down the sink. Got disposal. And we'll do it one more time. Same way we did before. More out of there. All right, that looks pretty plain to me. All right, we will, it is kind of still hot. Tastes delicious. It's very chickeny, and it's like the best noodle soup you've ever had. Okay, and the final step is just to take your broth and scoop it into whatever you're going to store it in. I store it in these liters. These I think they're pints, but I just get them at the Dollar General. If you're going to freeze them, is what I do. You make sure to leave quite a bit of top, so it don't go all the way to the top, because it'll freeze and pop off your lid. Ask me how I know. Look at that stock though, so thick. I mean, not thick, it's so brown because of all those good seasonings in there. About 4 is what I usually get out of a crock pot. And you'll also get a layer of fat that comes on the top of the lid or the container. So that's why you leave a little bit on the bottom too. You want the fat to congeal up to the top. And you can choose. When I make chicken and dumplings, I leave it on for flavor. But when I'm doing a soup or something, I take it off. So it's up to you whether you keep it or not. And that is homemade stock. Bone broth.